Anika. It's great to see you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining in today. It's my pleasure to invite Anika to the student seminar so that all of you can hear from her journey, learn from her. She is an incoming freshman in Stanford this year in the mathematics department, and she has quite a diverse set of interests. She worked on, as far as Cheenta is concerned, if I recall correctly, you started working on AMC program, right? The American Math Competition. But you started quite late in the process, which is interesting. And then you also switched toward research projects. In fact, Anika's research project was really interesting. She will definitely talk about it. But one thing I can say that stood out is that she was persistent. She continued to push through the process, even when the material was quite challenging. So let's hear from Anika. So Anika, maybe you can start by sharing with us that what made you interested in mathematics in the first place?
Great. So thank you so for the introduction. It's very nice to be here and talk to all of you. So I actually have a very different journey in math. So as Sir said, I got interested in math very late. So until 10th grade, I was the opposite of what you'd call a math kid. I was very math phobic. I did not understand math. And then I think I started practicing more and a flip switched. And then I started getting better at school math. But I enjoyed it to the point that I wanted to look for ways to further my interest in math beyond the classroom. And I did some research on my own. So I was like at home researching competitions that I was eligible to give. And remember, this is 10th grade. So like I was not eligible for a lot of Olympiads and contests that children have been preparing for a long time. So I discovered the AMC series and I thought it looked very interesting. I looked at a few past papers and I wanted to just try it out. And I did not really have a lot of hope for the outcome. So AMC 10 I gave on my own. It coincided with a lot of school exams and other commitments, and I did not clear it. But I was persistent. I wanted to do more, and that's actually how I discovered Cheenta. So I was researching places I could, that are good tutoring services for the AMCs, and I worked with them on AMC 12. I did around, I think, 6 month or 7 month sort of correspondence, and then I studied for the AMC 12, and I managed to get to the AME. But then I realized that I did not really want to do a lot of contests. Like I did a few even apart from the AMCs. I decided that I wanted to do advanced mathematics. So actually, a lot of you may know this, but the skill set you require for advanced math is almost tangential to what you do in contest maths. It's very different. And just because it doesn't mean that being good at one doesn't necessarily imply that you're very good at the other. So then I started doing, I worked with Cheenta on a research project, which was centered on hyperbolic geometry. And basically for 6 months, I just spent, I worked with the Cheenta faculty on learning basic metric space topology and group theory to build foundations for hyperbolic geometry, which is basically this kind of alternative geometry where Euclid's fifth postulate, which is a parallel postulate, is not true. So instead of one, so Euclid's parallel postulate states that given a line and a point not on it, there's exactly one line which can be drawn parallel to the given line which passes through the point. But in hyperbolic geometry, there are actually two lines, and the sum of a triangle, sum of the angles in a triangle is less than 180 degrees. So it's a very interesting kind of geometry, and I was very grateful to have had the opportunity to kind of learn more about it, build on some basics of advanced math with group theory and a little bit of real analysis. I worked on this research project, which was on the isometries of a hyperbolic plane. So isometries are basically just distance preserving transformations, like horizontal translations and the like. So I spoke about, this was mostly an expository paper because it's very difficult to kind of come up with new stuff at this level. So I was talking about stuff I learned, isometries. And then I also tried to use one model of the hyperbolic plane, which is the upper half plane model, to to I tried to connect it to a social phenomena. So in the upper half plane model of the hyperbolic plane, as you move further from the x-axis, the distance between points actually gets greater and greater. So I try to connect that to screen time, and how two individuals who spend more time on screen, they start getting their social proximity sort of decreases. So yeah, I worked on that project, and it was like a very basic idea, very simple idea. I think it could have been more substantiated with the use of real world data, so that's a possible extension. But the point I'm trying to make is that when you have the opportunity to do like a research project, it's mostly going to be expository. So you're going to write about stuff that people already know about, but you should also try and be creative and maybe like come up with like something on your own, because that's always going to help, and that's always going to also improve and enrich your own understanding of the concept, even if it's not necessarily going to be very useful at this stage, but you can always like expand on it later. So yeah, that was my journey with the research project.
So that's wonderful, Anika. Thank you for explaining it so well. I just wanted to understand, and this actually I wanted to ask while you were working on this project and so on. How did you manage your time? Because I think you were also taking SATs, right? And you're doing other stuff. You are also interested in philosophy. You wrote something on that. Could you tell us a little bit more about? Let's talk about the philosophy part. Can you talk about that? It's very interesting.
Okay, so I'll answer your question about how I manage my time first. So I've actually always been very interested in various things. So since I was young, I've been doing classical music. I recently received my bachelor's degree in Hindustani classical music, so that's very exciting. I also do dance. I am also very interested in creative writing, and recently also philosophy. So I think just because I enjoy so many things, I've always tried to make time for things, and it sort of comes naturally to me. But again, I think planning is very good, and it's also important to find like a structured and a systematic approach to doing whatever it is that you want to do, even as a CV building activity. So I think it was very easy for me to manage my time because I was working with Cheenta. The classes were very organized and systematic and focused. So I think and also I started during my summer break, so that the most substantial amount of studying that I had to do for the project happened over the summer. So I didn't really eat a lot into school exams and homework and stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how I manage my time. And yeah, so my interest in philosophy actually began through I started participating in philosophy essay competitions, and I actually have no background in philosophy, so I've never studied it in school. But I just found this essay competition online. It's called the John Locke Essay Competition, in case any of you are interested to check it out. And then the philosophy prompt seemed very interesting to me, and I just wrote an essay over. It took me 3 months. I did a lot of philosophy reading, and I actually realized that it's very similar to math, contrary to what a lot of people may think. I feel like it works the same parts of your brain. Even while reading philosophy papers, I feel like you have to sit with like a pen and paper in hand and work things out for yourself to make sure you really understand it. And there's also a lot of intersection in math and philosophy. So logic is is one of the more prominent areas of intersection. So yeah, I got into philosophy through the essay competitions. I did a few more essays, and I've actually still not received any formal instruction in philosophy. But I'm hoping to take courses in college, so that's definitely something I'm looking forward to. But yeah, so I think my key takeaway from this sort of newfound, very recent interest in philosophy is that don't be afraid to venture into new territories that you might not have explored before. Even if it's late in your high school and you're working on applications or competitive exams, you might be able to find time to just explore new interests, because that's always going to be rewarding. And speaking from a US application point of view, they always like to see a diverse applicant. I'm not a college admissions expert or a counselor or anything, but I from my own application process, I've learned that it's just as diverse as you can get. They want to see all sides of you. So yeah, so I think that's always going to be very helpful for you to learn new things.
That's awesome. Actually, quick note in that is that I also loved philosophy when I was a undergraduate student. And in fact, I first started with philosophy as my major, and then I switched to mathematics. So it's wonderful that you brought it up. I just want to point out one thing that some of you kids have attended the previous session where Anushka Agarwal was sharing her journey toward MIT and all. And that's quite different from what Anika is saying. I mean, there is no one way to do something nice. Anika, for example, did not go in the Olympiad route so strongly, like as Anushka might have gone. And it depends on your taste. I personally, I always think that even if you're not thinking about Stanfords and MITs and all, even if you're thinking about just learning something nice and doing what you like to do, that really helps. So, Anika, tell us a little bit more about your college application process. Maybe some of the students can get help from that. So, did you always want to go to a mathematics department after, let's say, 11th grade, when you found that you were liking mathematics more than other stuff? Did you like make your mind that, okay, I want to go to oh, by the way, Anika also got admits in Ivy Leagues, right? Like UPenn and stuff like that. Or CMU, I think you got admit in CMU, right? So did you think about that from 11th grade onward?
Yes, to answer your question, after I got interested in math, I was sure that I wanted to be a math major in college. Now that can change after I get to college, but I hope it doesn't. But yeah, so I was very sure that I wanted to major in math after getting into math in 11th. And I was also very sure from like a pretty young age that I wanted to go like abroad for my undergraduate education, specifically the US. Also because I've had like my older brother is currently in the US. He's also an undergraduate. And I think I've always appreciated the more flexible system that the US has to offer in terms of you're not really bound to one major. You have the opportunity to expand and explore, and the interdisciplinary learning that you'll get at like a top US university is very enriching. And you might not like, I mean, I know very like excellent institutions are coming up even in India, and but yeah, it's a matter of personal taste and preference. So for me, that flexibility was very important. I wanted to be able to take courses in areas that I may not have had the chance to explore in high school. So that's why I applied to the US. And yeah, so just some general insights into the US application process for some of you who may be interested to apply there would be if you've not decided where you want to go to college, like which country, then it's probably high time to do that now. That's the first step. That's like you should know, because US, UK, and India have very different application processes. I'm not an expert on the UK and India application process, but I do know that they are more entrance exam driven and very academically focused. US also cares about extracurriculars and like your holistic character and stuff like that. So after deciding where you want to go to college, I think just sort of like make a tentative college list. That's usually like the first thing that people do. And then start working on your essays. Like I can't emphasize the importance of starting your essays like as soon as possible. Even if you're in 10th grade and you're sure you want to go to the US, some brainstorming, just looking at past prompts, essay prompts won't hurt, because the US applications have like a crazy amount of essays. I think I wrote like around 70. That may be a good estimate of the number of essays I wrote. But again, there's a lot of overlap between the essays. So you might be able to use content that you wrote for one essay in another one. So it's not as daunting as it sounds, but still I would recommend start as early as possible. Also, if you one thing that you could do to help with your decision making, like where to apply and what course you want to do, like if it's pure math or applied math, that's actually not very important. But like, yeah, I'm guessing most of your math major are prospective math majors who might be interested in like CS or other math fields as well. But a good idea would be to just talk to people in different institutions. So even if you're not decided which country you want to pursue your further studies in, maybe just talk to a couple of people, ask them about their college life, how flexible it is, and just get some insights from there. They will, if you talk to people, especially like in the major that you're interested in, then that's going to be, there's nothing more helpful than that in your decision making. And yeah, and then just get started as soon as possible. Try again for US specific applicants, try and craft out like a story. So what I mean by this is, as early as you can in your high school journey, think about the person like you want to showcase yourself as in your application. That's very important. Some of it is actually very superfluous, but you just have to do it. So for example, I kind of showcased myself as a mathematically inclined person who was also interested in music and creative writing. So basically a very diverse kind of person. And I had a very community service oriented application. So I did a lot of work in the area of educational equity and just working with students of low resource backgrounds. And I also wrote a book on student change makers who are driving change across the country. So yeah, so just try and write down a few attributes or specific traits that you want to showcase yourself as in your college application, and then try and build an application around that. So for example, I'm guessing a lot of you would be on the Olympiad track. So if you're doing that, then maybe, actually, I don't have very specific advice to give in that domain, but yeah, just try and find out, like try and be as diverse as you can. So you might be on the Olympiad track, but try and find, like if time permits, I know this is like, you might have a very tight schedule if you're preparing for competitions, but try and find out one or two other areas of interest that you enjoy and look for something meaningful you can do in that. So just talking more about my mathematics journey, apart from the research project I did with Cheenta and the competitions that I took part in, I also try to look for other ways, other avenues to further my interest in maths. So for example, our school never had a math club, so I was the founding member of that. So if your school has a math club, then try and join that, or if it doesn't, then maybe you can start one. And I also worked with a local university. So I live in Ahmedabad. I worked with Ahmedabad University to start this kind of math outreach program for high school students. So we like a math club where we're talking about math. There's a problem of the month contest. You can actually check that out online. And we also kind of have math days and math fest and math quizzes. So my intention was to build a high school mathematics community, because there's not a very strong like culture of that here. So just try and look for new ways to further your interest and be as unique as you can. And yeah, that's my advice.
It's great. Thank you so much, Anika. Actually, this is a consistent thing that we have had at Cheenta as well, that students who have done well in the past, they have come back and taught here and talked to students, just like Anika is doing today. In fact, she also talked to Anushka and Aryan, who were students of Cheenta and are in Harvard and MIT. So she could have that conversation. Now you guys can have a conversation with Anika, and hope all of us benefit from this community, this community that we have here. Now I will just open the floor for questions. If you have any questions for Anika.
So I was wondering, what differences did you notice when applying to different colleges? Were there different things that you highlighted in some college applications over others?
That's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. So I think the US specifically is pretty uniform in what they're looking for in applicants. They want like holistic applications. But I think it's still like, it's very good. It's a good idea to kind of figure out what universities are looking for, or what specific trait a university is kind of looking for. So I can give you a few examples. So MIT and Caltech are obviously very competition focused. They're very research focused, and they're also very, very difficult to get into as an international applicant because as far as I know, MIT only takes like hardly 2 or 3 kids from India. So if you're not from here, then it's going to be very hard for you to stand out, but it's still not impossible. I would not be the best person to tell you how to get into MIT. But so MIT and Caltech are very research and competition focused for sure. Harvard, the other Ivy Leagues, Harvard, Yale, again, they're holistic. They like community service, leadership. So as much of that as you can showcase, the more the better. So you should definitely look at some of those areas if you're applying there. U Chicago is another university I wanted to highlight because it also has an excellent mathematics department, and it's a little different from the others. So they actually, like all US universities, they ask you to write like a whole ton of essays, but U Chicago places specific emphasis on their essays, and they actually admit applicants, of course, holistically, but also the quality of writing is very important. So they like to be, I think it's important to like kind of showcase your uniqueness. So yeah, that's U Chicago. And then there's the state schools. There's again, very uniform application process, just being as diverse as you can. The UC, so I also got into UC, all the UC colleges I applied to, and they also are very essay oriented as far as I could tell. But I think just the more standout ones, so like any tech school is going to be very like STEM focused, obviously. Any non-tech school will also be STEM focused, but they are looking at you more holistically than a tech school would, is what I'm assuming. So I think a good idea to do to learn more about this is just go to the website, or maybe try and research like what kind of student is like X college looking for. And I think you might get a lot of good answers online, or you can talk to people in those universities to find out more.
Thank you.
So thank you. Manasi Mehta, please go ahead.
Yeah, Anika, thanks for the lovely and wonderful insights you have shared with us. I have a question with respect to the applications to the Ivy League and other universities in the US. To what extent should your research idea be developed, and you should be mentioning? I mean, is it like is it a whole lot of detail that they require about the idea that you're interested in, or is it just what are they looking for with respect to your research idea that you are interested in, that you would like to take up if you get the admission?
So that's a very good question again. Thank you for asking. So again, I didn't touch upon this before, but this is a good opportunity to do so. So most colleges, like most of the Ivy Leagues and the top colleges, if you've done research, there's a checkbox they ask for in the common application. Do you have any research projects that you would like to submit? And then if you select yes, then there's always, almost always going to be an option for you to submit your STEM research supplement. I think that's what it's called in most schools. So you have to submit your paper or any like paperwork or documentation that goes along with your research. And along with that, you have to have an abstract of the research, because I doubt that admissions officers are going to read your entire paper. And you also need a recommendation letter in most cases from the person who advised you on your research. So for example, in my case, it was Oshmi sir. So whoever is your advisor or the person who supervised you has to write like sort of like a little recommendation for you. But again, not all colleges ask you about your research. Some don't care. But you can still, even if you don't have an option to submit your research or like showcase a tangible outcome for that, you can still write about it in your essays. So almost every US university has like intellectual curiosity essays. So you can talk about your research or any kind of research you participated in high school, and just say that that's like the idea that interests you most or captures your fascination. And if you're passionate about it, it's going to come naturally to you. So you'll be able to write about it well. And yeah, so you're going to be, so don't worry, you will get an opportunity to talk about your research, but in some way or the other.
Lastly, do you need to mention in your application the name of the potential advisor for that research?
So you do have to give their email, and they send an email, and I don't know if the name of the advisor is written in the recommendation letter. I would think it is, but yeah, I think you don't have to explicitly write it, but they'll find out anyways if you give the email and if they mention their name in the letter of recommendation.
Thank you.
Let's go to Siddhant Arimala.
Congratulations. My question was, what curriculum did your school follow? Was it IB, and did you take APs?
So I did the IBs. I didn't really do the APs. But yeah, the IB is a pretty rigorous curriculum by itself. So you don't, but I do know people who supplement it with the APs as well. But yeah, I did the IPs.
One last question, Shreyas Gupta. Please go ahead.
You talked about the crazy amount of essays you wrote for the application. What are they challenging, or what are the preparation writing?
Asking about the essays, am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, sorry for not being more specific, but I think the best way to start would be to go over past prompts. So I think if you're applying this cycle, the essay prompts are usually released sometime in August, but the Common App prompts stay the same. So Common App is basically one essay that you write, which goes to every single school you apply to, and then schools also have their own specific supplemental essays. So yeah, so try start working on your Common App essay, and like as you're looking for like trying to get inspiration for essays, just look at past prompts if the prompts aren't released yet. Look at areas of overlap. By that I mean, if you're looking at, let's say, an essay for MIT, like the essays for MIT and the essays for Stanford, try and find out like what topics most of these colleges are asking about that are common, and then like craft out an answer to that. So decide what you want to write, create an outline, work on that, refine it, edit it. And then when the time comes, you can like tailor it to each school. So then you can make it specific later. I would always recommend start general, start big picture. Then you can be as specific as you want. And I think if you're like earlier on in your high school journey, if you're in 9th or 10th grade, I wouldn't say regret, but like one thing that I might have done differently were I about to start my application process was just writing down stuff like from 8th and 9th and 10th onwards that could possibly go in a college essay. So for example, an experience that really moved me, for example. So I can just like note that down so I don't forget it, and it can be very useful material for a future college essay. So just start collecting anecdotes, start like talking to people, start reading past prompts and looking for areas of overlap, common topics, and try and create like outlines and common like narratives for those essays.
Okay, that's a great answer. Thank you, Anika, for your time again, and thank you all the students for joining in. If you have more questions for Anika, then please send me an email. I will be happy to respond. I'll be happy to forward them to Anika. I'm sure she can respond. And it was wonderful interacting with you, Anika, and hopefully our collaborations will continue in the future. Thank you very much.
So much.
Yeah. All the best. Bye. Take care.